Welcome to the network, the educational podcast designed to help our community navigate the four areas of life that I like to call the funky four corners. I've had the opportunity to interview some of my favorite people with one goal in mind: to help the spiritual, physical, mental, and financial health of our people as we navigate this thing called life. Subscribe to the network. You never know, you might need it. Listen, man, we are back once again. In the words of the great American poet, Donald Glover, you may know him as Childish Gambino, get your money, black man, get your money. Listen, this is the network. We are the educational podcast designed to help our community navigate spiritually, physically, mentally, and financially. I am your host. My name is Michael Prejean. Today in the Funky Four podcast studio, we have a visionary entrepreneur who transformed a college passion for customizing sunglasses into the CEV Collection, a nationally recognized brand sold in 750 stores. Beyond business, he is empowering over 1,000 youth annually through his nonprofit, Believe in a Dream. He is redefining software for leaders and dreamers. I need you to put your real hands together or your virtual hands and welcome to the network CEV co-founder and CEO, Jamal Robinson. Jamal, welcome to the network, brother.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and excited to have this conversation today.
Man, listen, it's not every day that we have a CEO joining us here in the Funky Four podcast studio. So listen, let's do this before we dive in. Before we jump into your journey, who do you want to give flowers to while they can still smell them?
Who would I like to give flowers to while they can still smell them? Well, first, I shared with you prior to we starting to tape. My wife and I just had a baby girl, beautiful baby girl in July. And so the first person I would say is my beautiful wife, Edna. Everything that we'll talk about today, she is the foundation and the rock of that, especially when it comes to our household and now nurturing our baby girl. So give flowers to my wife. Next, I'd like to give flowers to everything we'll talk about when it comes to the success I've had. Really stems on the back of growing up in a very loving, nurturing household. So my parents, Audrey and Earl. And lastly, I would like to give flowers to. I've been fortunate in my 20s. I'm now in my 30s. That I was surrounded by specifically men in the community, Fort Wayne, Indiana, where I grew up, that poured into me. Rick McCampbell, Jerry Henry, Michael Lido, to name a few, who really helped me become the businessman entrepreneur I am today and how I see the world. So my wife, my family, and the men that have poured into me, that's who I'd like to give flowers to.
Man, that is outstanding. Flowers to the family, to the wife, and to the men who helped shape you. Fort Wayne, Indiana. So shout outs to Fort Wayne, Indiana, and the men doing good work there. All right, Jamal, man, again, thank you for joining us here in the network. So again, I mentioned it's not every day that we have a CEO here in the podcast studio. So it's truly inspiring to see what you have been able to build and the impact that you are having on the next generation. So we're going to explore the funky four corners of life, because I know your journey is going to give us some great insight into all of those things. But before we dive deep, and for those who may be new to your story, I want you to share briefly. Actually, it doesn't even have to be briefly. I want you to tell us about how your passion for eyewear started. Go.
So as I mentioned, I grew up in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I went to a school called Northrop High School here in Fort Wayne, and I was always very creative. I loved growing up. Michael Jackson still is, but growing up, my favorite artist And creativity was always really something that I think was a God-given innate talent, something that I did very naturally from, starting, playing in a band when I was, in middle school, to rapping in high school, drawing. And in high school, I had an art teacher that really encouraged me to continue to, explore the passion of art. So that was the start of it. And growing up, I also played soccer. So I had the opportunity and was fortunate enough to get a scholarship to play at the University of Central Florida, which is far away from Indiana. But I did that for a couple reasons. When I was leaving high school, one, I wanted to get out. Fort Wayne's a mid-sized city, not a large city, not a metropolitan like Orlando. So I wanted to get out of, go to a larger city. And then two, I knew from an early age the saying that I had always heard: your network is your net worth. And so I wanted to put myself in those type of environments. And again, that's why I chose University of Central Florida. But while I was down there, when I wasn't playing soccer and I wasn't doing my studies, I would spend time networking. And I met an individual that had a startup company. And the long story short of that is, I propositioned him to become his designer as an intern my freshman year of college. And after that internship ended, um, again, those creative juices were still going. And that's when I started customizing sunglasses in my college dorm room. But it was really at the backbone of being a part of a small business, getting it off the ground, but also utilizing that creativity that I mentioned. I really had an innate passion for, and so that was the start of my eyewear journey.
All right, so let's do this because I want people to know where they can find this eyewear, right? I want them, like, you customize eyewear.
Yeah.
So one of the things we need to make sure we do today is get you some customers, right? So where can people find the eyewear? How can they connect with you, keep up with you? Give us the information.
So that was the start of my eyewear journey, and that was early 2000s, 2000, um, eight technically when I started, but my first business I started and built that over time, over about 10 years. And now the second eyewear venture I'm on is CEV Collection. So we're sold in about, as I mentioned, 750 stores across the country. So if you're anywhere in the United States listening to this, you can go into your local Sam's Club. That's one of the big box retailers where we're available at. Go into your local Sam's Club and ask for CEV Collection. Outside of Sam's Club, you can go into your local iMart Express, which is another national retailer. And those are our prescription glasses. So if you wear glasses and you're looking for CEV Collection glasses, those are two of our big customers. And then outside of that, you can go to cevcollection.com, which is where you'll find a majority of our sunglasses. Now, with our sunglasses, we also have blue light blocking glasses, which is what I'm wearing today. So these don't have any prescription in them, but when I'm in front of the screen, or you watch TV, you game on your phone, blue light glasses are what I would say are essential, and it helps with digital eye strain. So those are the key places that your listeners and I always direct people to. Is if you wear glasses, we love your support. We'd love to earn your support by going to one of our big box retailers. You can also, if you love the designs on our sunglass frames, you can also remove the sun lens and have your local optician or optical provider take out those sun lenses and then put your prescription in them. And then also, like I mentioned, our website, which I'll share some exciting news with your listeners throughout this podcast that we've got a big launch coming up on Friday.
Oh, man, that's what's up. And let me tell you, here's the good news for me to you, from me to you.
Yes.
My prescription it's time for me to renew my prescription.
There we go. There we go.
Whenever I get my new pair, right, from the CEV collection, man, I'm gonna make sure I let you know. I'm gonna be all over all over Instagram
That's
and
what
the
I'm talking
socials and
about.
wherever else. All right,
That's what I'm
so
talking about.
do we have this right here? If they want to go and follow you guys on IG and TikTok, is that right?
That's correct. CEV Collection across all platforms. That's where you can, again, our website is cevcollection.com, and across IG, TikTok, just search CEV Collection and we'll pop up.
There it is. Okay, so let's jump into the funky four corners.
Let's do it.
So when we talk about spiritual things, so the first thing I want to ask you is, what's the best spiritual advice you've ever been given? And when we go spirit, we're talking about purpose, meaning, values, inner compass, resilience type stuff. So what's the best piece of spiritual advice you have ever been given?
The best spiritual advice I've been given, it's a very great question. I would say really comes down to a few things, but I'll focus on the one here is trust in the Lord. So when I think of spirituality, myself, I'm a individual of faith, and so the advice, and this comes from, again, I gave my father flowers. He's been, my best friend, my best man, mentor in life, my hero, um, and and I say trust in the Lord because why that's the best spiritual advice for me is, the back part of that is lean not on my own understanding. And so, I've been fortunate to build a business, from a work standpoint, from idea to, where we're at today, and we have, a very big future for us, in the future. But that hasn't come without a lot of trials and tribulations. And mentally, a lot of self doubt, a lot of, second guessing myself, or the team in a sense, as a leader. And so, um, why that principle, I would say, is important for me is because it takes the trust out of my own hands. And again, it goes into the part of faith, which is, seeing what's not yet there, and then trusting that for me, God, is leading me on the path, that I should be walking or going to in life. And so trust in the Lord is extremely, important, and I would say, again, a pillar for my life. And that's how I would answer that question.
That's good. Very, very clear that and this wasn't even a play on words, but it's very clear that the clear eye view mantra is rooted um in your spiritual side of your life.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and on that, so how we got to Clear Eye View. So for the listeners that may not know, CEV Collection stands for, as Michael just mentioned, Clear Eye View. And going back to how we started the conversation, growing up at Fort Wayne, my business partner is Jalen Smith. He's an NFL Pro Bowl linebacker, and he went to the University of Notre Dame. Was uh, by all accounts going to be a first round draft pick, one of the best linebackers, the best linebacker in his class. And his final college game, he had a career-ending, what analysts said, injury. And, long story short of that, he was able to fully recover, not only fully recover, have a successful, 9 years in the NFL. He's still actively a free agent now. Majority of his career was with the Dallas Cowboys. But why that's important is because his mantra in life was clear eye view. And so that's where we got the name Clear Eye View. And so we teamed up together to build this business. And he didn't want to always be seen as just an athlete. But there's three pillars to having a clear eye view. It's having a focused vision, that you see clearly in what you want to go after in life. Have a determined belief, meaning that you have the wherewithal to go out and make it happen. And then the last pillar of that is earn dreams. So if you have a focused vision, a determined belief, you can earn your dreams. And so really we took that first pillar of Jalen's mantra of clear eye view, and that's what we decided to build the brand on, is really sharing and amplifying that message of having a focused vision in life. So and for me, how that aligned to me personally is exactly what you just mentioned. Is um, it's always for Jay and I, it's always been bigger than the product. And if we can be a vehicle for when people put on our product or when they hear our message, to be of hope, inspiration. That's the whole premise of the brand that we're building and the message that we relate out. Aside from having great product.
Man, that is good. Do me a favor, run back your three pillars because I
Yep.
want to hear them again, but I want to make sure that our listeners and watchers hear them again as well.
Yeah. So the clear eye view, the mantra is broken down into three pillars. It's one, having a focused vision, having a determined belief, and earned dreams. So focused vision, determined belief, earned dreams. Those are the three pillars of what we see as having a clear eye view. And again, when we're looking at partnering together to build this brand and this business, as Jay was starting his NFL career, and that's what when if you were to ask him and you were to talk to him about how he's able to overcome what most would say is a career-ending injury, it would come back to he really relied on those pillars. And in the same, you know, um, correlation with my life is the synergies of what we were talking about is faith. But the bigger picture, and I think to what you just mentioned for your audience, is all of us have probably gone through one thing or something or some things. Either we're coming out of a storm, we're in the middle of a storm, or we're about to go into one. And so, really having guiding principles for how we navigate life and keeping it really simple is again the foundation of how we naturally live our life, but also the CEV brand.
That's it. And what I love about this is, man, the vision of your company and the vision of the podcast are in direct alignment,
Love
right?
that.
Because
Love that. Yeah.
this podcast is about, the pillars that we want you to build your life on, right? Physically, spiritually, mentally, and financially. So, man, that is good stuff. So you're running a national brand
Yes.
and a nonprofit. I know that demands a lot of energy, right? So when you think about the physical corner, right? Talking about health, energy, well-being, that wellness corner can be overwhelming. There's so much stuff out there. So um, what's the best advice you've been given about maintaining your physical health? Something that cuts through all the noise and helps you sustain your pace.
When I think about my physical health, I think about um, the saying, "Your body is a temple," and there's your audience has probably heard, you know, uh, the richest place in the world is the graveyard, and that's where dreams, hopes, aspirations of those that didn't fulfill their true mission on earth live. And so it does take a lot of energy to do what I've been able to do, but that doesn't come nor start until I've filled my own cup up, metaphorically. And I take, very good care of my body because I only have one of them. I don't take my body for granted. And so the one thing I would say is I really um, believe in the saying, your body is a temple, take care of your temple. And for me, as I mentioned, growing up playing sports, um, I naturally did that, and I built in, I believe, really good habits and disciplines inadvertently playing sports from a young age. And then you get older to where you can start deciding on how you want your lifestyle to be. And again, for me, I've made the decision to do the best I can taking care of my body, and that's everything from my physical well-being. Last year I ran my first marathon, and that was a mental, physical challenge that I wanted to attack. This year, I was queuing up for my next one, but had an Achilles injury, so I'll have to put that back on the back burner. But I'll tee up for a triathlon next year. But then everything from the daily disciplines. So the big things that there's a Japanese saying, and I'm forgetting it right now, but always having there's one thing to go after every year, that will be a physical, spiritual, mental challenge. And so last year was a marathon. I want to double back on it again this year. But again, I think it is important, aside from that, for myself and for others, to have something that challenges us, in that physical realm. And for me, again, it was a marathon, but for anybody, it could be, getting outside. It could be riding a bike. It could be going to the gym. But I think that's a core premise of anything that we talk about on this show would be for naught if we didn't have the health and the energy to accomplish it. Drinking water, drinking the proper amount of water, eating the right balance of good foods. So I think those are all physical things that we have to be mindful of. And I think especially as we get older, and I'm sure as life's for all of us, we get busy. So sometimes, kind of the quicker indulges may fill us up more, but they may have a sustained effect, specifically when it comes to food. Or we may not prioritize being active or having an active lifestyle because we're busy. And I completely understand that. My hands up for those type of things in life too. But I think as long as we keep the North Star on having a physical discipline in some way, shape, or form, I think that's an essential. Um,
Man, that's good. So I want to read this. I'm reading through your bio, right? I want to read this, and then I'm going to ask a question. You mentioned visionaries with unshakable drive,
yeah.
ruthless self belief, and focused vision to build, lead, serve, and to leave something that lasts. So I want to focus on that unshakable drive part, right? So not only are you running a business, you talk about running marathons, right? So you're an active guy. So what's your go-to physical practice, whether it's the way you feed your body or the type of exercise you do? So what's your go-to thing to make sure that the unshakable drive doesn't lead to burnout?
So that is it's actually what may be kind of counterintuitive to the physical conversation we're having, and it's meditation. It's being still.
That's good.
And
Yeah.
we talked about the marathon being active and moving, but actually what has been a big part of my journey when it comes to physical and mental health is being still and meditating, and getting quiet with myself in my mind, or letting my thoughts run, right? And getting them to getting them out to where I can address them either in meditation or outside of meditation.
Yeah.
So it's actually meditation has been a really big practice of mine that I've leaned into for many years.
That's good because, and you're segueing us right into the next corner, which is the mental corner. But what you just talked about was balance, right? You just talked about having balance. So I'm going to move, but I'm also going to be still. That's good stuff.
That's
That's
it.
good stuff.
That's, that
Um,
and that's important. I think it's really important to have that balance of when you're moving and having the energy to go after what you want to in life, but you also have to balance that. You can't always be on. You can't
Yeah.
always be on because you'll burn out. I think you have to be in a place where if you always are running, if you always are exerting yourself, you'll naturally run out. And that's how our body is designed. And the most important thing I think we can talk about as we move into the mental aspect of it is rest, right? So if we think about the natural cycle of our bodies, one things, again, my hands up, something I can continue to work on is we have to give our bodies proper rest. And that goes to exactly what we're saying as far as you have the activity, but to balance out that activity, you need to still yourself so you can exert the energy that you need on a consistent basis to accomplish what you want to accomplish.
I took myself completely out of the pod just for a second. My bad.
No,
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 that's
you're good.
good.
You're good.
So let me ask this. So going back, man, and man, this is good stuff. So if you are tuning in, if you're watching, if you're listening, maybe you weren't even paying attention, you just had this going in the background. You are listening to the co-founder and CEO of the CEV Eyewear Collection, Jamal Robinson. He has given us a masterclass in balance. A masterclass in balance. So remember, what we do here in the podcast is we want to help you navigate life through what we like to call the funky four corners: physically, mentally, spiritually, and financially. Right now, we're in this mental corner. So let me ask this question. You say each level of growth requires a new level of yourself and then the ability to enroll others in the vision. That's powerful. Man, that's powerful. Let me read that again because that's powerful. Each level of growth requires a new level of yourself and the ability to enroll others in the vision. So that's very, very powerful mental reframing. So, where did you get that wisdom? Where did you learn that wisdom? Did somebody impart that to you? Was that did that come from one of your mentors early on in life? Talk about that.
So it's both through experience and um, wisdom from mentors. There's a book, um, Who, Not What, and then also the theme is pretty consistent in um, many books, but that's one of them. There's another book called Traction, um, which is it's part of an EOS, entrepreneurial operating system, which is how we operate our business. It's a framework for business specifically. Um, and so the metaphor that was told to me when I was younger is the metaphor of a bus, and it's the not only the right person on the bus, but the right person in the right seat. And so that's the wisdom that was shared with me in the framework of um, each new level will require an evolved and better person of yourself, but also you have to enroll others in that vision. And why that's important is because I'm speaking from the lens of being either a manager or an entrepreneur or a leader. You can't do everything yourself. There's the saying, the art of delegation, and that's part of it. But the first part is, you got to make sure you have the right person to delegate to, and then you have to know what to delegate. Um, but what I've learned through my experience is when I was starting out in my journey, specifically for entrepreneurship, I always felt I had to do everything myself. And one that was limiting belief in the fact that could I enroll others into my vision? Did I want to share the vision? And so I've learned over time But also, again, mentors had told me those type of phrases in the framework of really what it takes to build a successful entity. Um, you have to enroll others. So then, a skill set or what they do is probably the best that they can do it. And it's a lot better than what you can do. And so I've learned through doing it the wrong way. I've learned from, mentors sharing that wisdom with me. And I've learned from, reading books that have shared those principles. And so I think it's threefold in those core buckets. But that's essentially what it comes down to. And the next version of yourself is essentially that. If you think of it of as anything in life, we're talking about school earlier, right? So if you don't grow and mature when you're going from each grade level, you'll never pass the grade, or you may pass the grade, but you won't progress. You won't really comprehend what you're learning because you're still back. And I think that's one thing. Again, I would say learning from myself through experience, learning through failure, um, and learning from others' guidance, that you have to evolve as a person just as much as you want to evolve as a leader, as a manager, as a business person. And a core theme that has always been shared with me is continued learning. I love looking at business people who and entrepreneurs that are in their 80s, their 90s, and they're still working. Most famously that comes to mind right now is Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's close business partner who passed away. I think he was 99 or 100 or something. But up until his late 90s, he was still working through deals, still doing annual shareholder meetings. And there's many stories like that. That when you think about the continued evolution of growth as an individual, that's the North Star. That's what it looks like. Is even with massive success, from a worldly view, and financial success from a worldly view, you're still learning, you're still working, you're still trying to better yourself, you're still trying to put things together, and so that's where the constant evolution of yourself comes from. And which I think in business, what I love is less about the business itself, but to really be a great entrepreneur, I believe you really have to be, you have to have really good personal development, and they kind of go hand in hand. So I think those are the two things. Those are two ways and things I would look at. That question.
Man, so I'm so glad. If I recall, I want to say we bumped into each other in the airport in Tampa.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
Down
man,
there with the greatest fraternity on earth,
the
the
greatest
one and only Omega
fraternity,
Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated.
the greatest fraternity. I am so glad, man, that we connected in the airport that day because number one, wise beyond your years. Wise beyond your
Appreciate
years.
that. Thank
So
you.
you mentioned EOS,
EOS.
Entrepreneur Operating System.
That's correct.
So before we move into the financial corner, man, just break that down just real quick because somebody watching or listening may need to be introduced to that concept.
For sure. So, if you're like myself, um, you're an entrepreneur, you don't know a framework or business plan and where to get started. There's a book called Traction. And in that book, it breaks down what the entrepreneur operating system is. It gives you tools and frameworks that you can easily plug and play, for your own venture. There's another book after that book called Get a Grip, which goes a little bit deeper. But EOS, you could probably Google it, and the book is called Traction. That's where that comes from. But the short of it is, it's frameworks and systems that help entrepreneurs create a scalable business.
Listen, somebody's going to watch this, somebody's going to listen to this. You did not know that you were going to get what you just got from Jamal. The book is Traction. EOS. And then the second book is Get a Grip. So there's somebody you're entering your entrepreneurial journey, or maybe you're on a pivot. Maybe you're pivoting from, the rat race to entrepreneurship. You just got tools for your journey. All right, Jamal, man, this brings us to the last of the funky four corners. This is financially. So 750 stores nationwide, man, that kind of growth requires not just vision, but some pretty good financial management. So what's the most impactful financial advice you've received?
The most, the best financial advice I've received. I was actually just one of my mentors that I didn't give flowers to him earlier, but I will now. His name's Keith, and he built one of the most successful steel companies in the world. Um, and I play pool with him quite often. That's kind of our thing. And he's from Indiana, and we actually were just talking about this. And the short of it is, um, when it comes to business and entrepreneurship, understanding the three financial statements that are mission critical for the business. So that's going to be your income statement, your balance sheet, and your statement of cash flows. And he was challenging me, actually, to continue to learn and understand how those um, financial statements impact your business, and learn and understand how to really break down and read those financial statements, because we were talking about some of the things that he was working on, and my business, and he really iterated that is like, most people know what those statements are. They're familiar with them, more than likely, but really understand. And it's almost like uh, in a nutshell, a foreign language, right? But so really understand the language of the financial statements. Um, that I would say is actually, again, just wisdom that I was recently shared, and I think, but that's been kind of a common theme when it comes to my entrepreneurial journey. Is you got to know your numbers. Um, one of the first jobs I worked as I was building my first company, it was with an individual I mentioned earlier, and it was the first time that I really understood how to be so accurate. We import our product, we manufacture it overseas, and we bring it into the United States and we sell it. And this mentor of mine really broke down to the penny. He had a similar business. Um, how much that product cost. There was no gray area. And I grew up in a household, I would say middle class. But for me, this has changed now. But money really wasn't talked about. How to manage money, even the simple thing as far as credit cards. How do credit cards work? Um, I grew up kind of in the in between age with debit cards and whatnot. So writing a check in your checkbook and balancing your checkbook, kind of those, it seems like fundamental things I myself was not aware of. And so it wasn't until later on in life where I did have mentors that started to break down the fundamentals of financials and financial management. That's really what helped shape my view on things now. So for the audience and anyone that's getting started, or if you're like me who started and really didn't have clear understanding, that's okay. That's okay. But now's a good place to really go to YouTube, go to Google, you know how to read a proper income statement. Look at publicly traded companies like Nike, or Amazon, or Google, whomever, and read their financial reports, read their investor reports, read their documentation that they have to come out with every quarter. Now, that may be overkill, but the reason I say that is maybe my balance sheet isn't the same as obviously in Amazon's, but when you look at a complex balance sheet and how it's broken down, it may give a different perspective than our personal balance sheet. But at the end of the day, as Keith shared with me, it's really understanding the language of finance. And I think having that, as he shared with me, that foundation is essential. And if you want to continue to take it a step further, which I myself am doing, I just started a new book that I'm reading. It's Financial Intelligence for Entrepreneurs, I believe it is. I just started it the other day, actually. And so I really want to, again, do my best to fluently speak the language of finance. And so I'm still learning. I'm still, reading and studying on how I can better myself in that area as well. But those are the lessons that were shared with me that I'd share with anybody.
That's good stuff. So I'm gonna just a short recap for those of you who are watching or listening. So if entrepreneurship, if you believe that it's in your future, let me say this, people. Okay. Jamal was really eloquent. I'm not going to be so eloquent. Okay. Don't think you're going to be an entrepreneur if you can't read a financial statement. If you're not good with money, your business is going to go out of business. If it even gets off the ground. So continuing education is important, especially if you want to call yourself an entrepreneur. Let me do this real quick, Jamal. Listen, before we go to the next segment, I need you to like. That's the thumb. I need you to subscribe. And I need you to sign up for notifications if you are watching us on YouTube. If you are listening to this podcast on Apple, I need you to go to iTunes, give us that 5-star rating, tell a friend to tell a friend, share the pod so more people can find us and connect with us here in the network. It's called the network for a reason, okay? We're trying to make connections on all different levels. Okay, so I want to play a game, but before we get to the game, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about your work in Believe in a Dream. So tell us about the work that you're doing with Believe in a Dream.
So the Believe in a Dream is, as the name states, I knew when getting started in my entrepreneurial journey that I was fortunate to grow up in a household that I was encouraged to go after my dreams. But after my first year of college, I realized not everyone grew up in that type of environment. So when I came home my freshman year of college, I started to share my story with young people, at Boys and Girls Club, at the Boys and Girls Clubs of Fort Wayne, at high schools, and to encourage my peers at the time to believe in their dreams. I think we all have a dream. I think we all have a purpose that we know, a God-given purpose we know we are put on earth to do. And sometimes, for whatever the reason may be, we may not have had that person or those mentors that have said, "Hey, go out there and do it. You can do it. If you fail, you never fail. Don't quit, can't lose. You learn something from it. Or if you're a massive success, continue to share that story with somebody else." So that's the premise of Believe in a Dream, as the name states. I've been fortunate to be a part of the organization and its growth, obviously since inception. But now we have a great team. We have a great staff. We impact, over 750, close to 1,000 young people per year. I think we're touching over that now. And we really focus on 3 pillars: entrepreneurship. So obviously, being an entrepreneur, very, very important. I think entrepreneurship is a vehicle that even you could be an entrepreneur, right? Within a company, and entrepreneur, own your own business. But I think it's essential. And I think the premise is everything that we do and the pillars that I'm going to share, we want to plant seeds. And I always tell the organization, the leaders of the organization, the program directors, we may not see the fruits of the seeds we're planting, but the whole goal is that we plant seeds. So we want to give young people the opportunity to experience entrepreneurship in high school. We've invested and donated, over $75,000 into young high school ventures, the orchestral arts. We want to see young people flourish in the orchestral arts, and we've started what's now one of the largest joint orchestral programs on the East Coast, and leadership. And so we've started a leadership program that now goes from freshmen in high school to now we're having some students that have started with us, back when we started, they're graduating college. So really giving young people the tools to let them know that they are their brand. That is the phrase of our Pave the Path program, which is our leadership program. I am my brand. And giving them, again, the resources and the tools to go in the classroom. It's a high school based program, and be the leaders that they know they can be. And there's so many stories where young people have really found their voice. They knew it was inside of them, but really going through the program and being an active participant, they've been able to be a leader not only in the program, but in the classroom as well. So that's Believe in a Dream, and it really is the premise that we want to plant seeds in young people's lives, and hopefully one day see them flourish. But if we don't, that's okay.
No, listen. So I'm looking at Instagram. Kyle, my man Kyle Adams, he's one of our teammates. I don't know if he's still there live on Instagram, but was texting with Kyle this morning, and we were talking about seeds. We were talking about planting seeds and growth. So where we are, and man, the alignment. So this is how I know. And I have to say this out loud. This is not tongue in cheek. This is how I know that I am lined up with God, because the confirmation just keeps coming. And I'm just talking about in the work that I'm doing here, with the podcast, the conversations that I'm having with people, the information dissemination that we're doing. So we talked about planting seeds this morning, and right now where we are, there's seed and harvest, and between seed and harvest is time. Right. So, and this is not just any type of plant that's growing. This is bamboo, right? The seeds that were planted were bamboo. And if you know anything about the way that bamboo grows down first.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Before you even see any shoots coming out of the ground, those roots get incredibly deep. So I want to encourage you and the people that you're working with, man, y'all keep doing the work, because, keep planting those seeds, keep watering them, because, man, what we're working with is bamboo.
Thank you. Receive that. Receive that. Thank you.
All right, listen, here's what we're going to do, man. Let's play a game.
All right.
On all my podcasts, man, I like to play a game. So we're going to go two segments, man. We're going to go either or, the first segment, and then the second segment, we're going to go agree or disagree. So I'm just going to throw some stuff at you. And for this first round, tell me which one you'd rather. Okay. You ready?
Right. Do it.
All right, here we go. Marvin Gaye or Stevie Wonder?
Stevie Wonder.
Shaka Khan or Beyonce?
Beyonce.
All right. Which one do you think is more essential for today's conversations? Okay. The wisdom of Maya Angelou or the critique of James Baldwin?
Wisdom of Maya.
Jazz or hip hop?
Jazz.
Okay. I was about to say, I got a fan. I got a real fan here. Harlem Renaissance or the Civil Rights Movement?
Renaissance.
Okay. Entrepreneurship or corporate ladder?
Entrepreneurship.
Okay. I knew the answer to that one from the jump. All right. Not bad. Not bad. Man, I got to listen. I'm going to have to make sure that I connect you with Kyle, man, because I
love that.
Listen, because I think Kyle is a jazz guy and probably a Harlem Renaissance guy as well. All right, here we go. All right, this round, man, agree or disagree. I'm going to throw some statements out there. You tell me if you agree or disagree.
Sounds good.
All right. Agree or disagree. It is possible to pick yourself up by your bootstraps.
Agree.
Black entrepreneurship is the most powerful form of community empowerment.
Disagree.
Cultural representation in business is more important than financial success.
Agree.
Okay. Representation in entrepreneurship, just like your journey with CEV, is just as crucial as representation in politics or entertainment.
Agree.
All right. Last one. Soul food is a vital part of cultural preservation and community building.
Agree.
Agree or disagree? Okay.
Agree.
All right. Man, I appreciate you for playing that game with me, man. I love to do that. Oh, let me ask this question. This question is not on my list, but I want to ask this. If you could have any superpower, what would it be and why?
I would have the superpower of time travel. And why? I love history, and so I'd love to go back in time, and I'd love to go into the future to see the innovation that will be in a thousand years to come. So I love history, and I think I think in life, if you do not reflect in general, you don't have appreciation for what you've been through to get to where you're going. And so, but again, I'm a history guy myself. So time travel.
Okay, man, that is out of all the questions that I ask, that is my absolute favorite question to ask.
I love that.
Yep. All right. So this brings us to the segment that we call Good Medicine. Okay. So what I want you to do right here, Jamal, is I want you to prescribe to our listening or watching audience something that was good for you that you believe will also be good for them. And it could be anything. It could be a book you read, a podcast, a song, anything. So what do you have for good medicine?
So 2 parts. I'd like to give a tangible one. So one book that I'd want to share with the audience is the 5 a.m. Club. I think that's a book that I've read now a couple times, and I think it's a great book. I would encourage anybody to read. And the second is, we've talked about this a couple times, but having faith and surrounding ourselves with the absolute best people. I think that's what I would say mission critical. We started the conversation with faith and trusting in the Lord. And so that is what I would share with the audience, is do have faith and do whatever you're doing in life. We're talking business, but again, the first person I gave flowers to was my wife, because she is my wife. But surrounding yourself with the very best people will only bring out the best in ourselves. So whether it's your home environment, work, recreational activities, that type of environment will always bring out the best in you. And lastly, what to that premise is, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're probably in the wrong room. And so that's what I would share with the audience.
Okay, man, that is good medicine right there. The 5 a.m. Club, a book, something tangible. The second thing is have faith and surround yourself with people who are going to lift the tide. Third thing he gave you, good medicine, was find you a new room if you're the smartest person in the room that you're currently in. All right, Jamal, man, this brings us to the very last piece of the puzzle, the very last segment of the podcast. I like to call this You Didn't Ask, right? My brother gave me this piece of advice a long time ago. He said, man, you can't give people advice they didn't ask for. But I'm a little brother, so I like to do the opposite of what my big brother tells me. Hence this segment, You Didn't Ask. So nobody asked for this advice, Kyle. I mean, I'm not sorry, Kyle. Jamal, nobody asked for this advice,
Yeah.
but you're going to give it to them anyway. So what do you have for you didn't ask?
You didn't ask. So the didn't ask piece of advice, I would say, is in life. We talked about this a little bit with Believe in a Dream, but no matter your age, you could be young listening to this, or you could be more seasoned in life, still young listening to this. As long as you're under 150, you're young. So from 0 to 150, um, truly think about what you want in life. Truly, I think it's easy to play it safe in life. My dad gave me this analogy when I was younger about a deck of cards. And I think most people who probably listen to this podcast are probably very talented. They're go getters. They're listening for tidbits, thoughts, motivation, inspiration. But if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably, as my dad would say, and this is what he shared with me. He said, Jamal, you're a jack right now. And what a jack is in a deck of cards is obviously it's above, the two through the jack, right? So it's above the crowd. And if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably naturally above the crowd. But he said, and I have this in my wallet, but he said, be an ace, stand out above the crowd. Because at a jack, probably in your circle, you're the best. You're one of the best. People always come to you for advice. People may even look to you as a success. But deep down, as driven individuals and individuals that want more in life, we know there's more in us. And that's the scary part. That's where we have to get out of our comfort zone, myself included, continually. And so that's the advice that I would share that was not asked, is
Man,
truly know what you want and go after it.
listen, why be a jack when you can be an ace?
That's it.
Man, listen, that is 1000% pure solid gold. That's a gem. That's a gem. Most of us are jacks. Most of us are jacks. We're not a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, a 9. We've superseded tens. But Jamal just told you don't stop there. Man, big ups to Jamal's dad for that piece of advice. That's what we call generational wisdom. Listen, if you are listening to this by audio, or if you're watching on YouTube, I already told you, but I'm going to tell you again. I need you to hit that like and subscribe button. Go to iTunes, give us a 5-star rating. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Share the podcast. Listen, follow us on IG. Where are we on IG? We are at Podcasts with Prejean. I don't have it preloaded, but that's where we keep all the podcast content. All right. Listen, make sure you check the show notes for the good medicine and the advice that you didn't ask for, but Jamal gave it to you anyway. Listen, y'all, this is the network, the educational podcast designed to help you physically, mentally, spiritually, and financially. Go for it, Jamal.
Last thing I'll say, the last person I'd give flowers to is you. I'd give
Oh,
flowers to you because I really appreciate this opportunity to share my story with your audience. But most importantly, it's been now coming up on 2 years since we've connected, and you've followed up to build the relationship for us to get here. And if it weren't for individuals like yourself believing and sharing my and others' story, it wouldn't be told. So I want to give flowers to you and the team that helps you with this podcast and the network. So thank you.
Man, thank you. I truly appreciate that. Um, Man, everybody has a story that needs to be told, right? So what we're
True.
doing here on the network is we're not only telling those stories, we're sharing those stories. We're making sure that we connect people. I want to tell this story real quick before we get out of here, man. I had a guy on my podcast one day, and he talked about a comic book that he was working on. Hadn't been published. It was just, I mean, it was in its rawest stages, beginning stages. Somebody watched or listened to the podcast, connected with him, and that comic book is real.
Wow.
That comic, it's the ultimate guard dogs. The
I love
ultimate guard dogs. So if you're watching or listening, man, y'all go and check out the ultimate guard dogs. They got some news coming out real soon as well. Again, y'all, listen, this podcast is designed to help you physically, mentally, spiritually, and financially as we navigate this thing called life. Listen, subscribe to the network. You never know, you might need it. For our guest, thank you for sharing your story with us, Jamal. I'm getting ready to get us out of here. Hang back with me just for a second. But for Jamal Robinson, the CEO and co-founder of CEV Collection, my name is Michael Prejean. I'm your host of the network. Listen, we're about to get out of here. But until next time, there's one thing I need you to do, and one thing only. That's make love the culture. We'll catch up with y'all soon.